G'day gorgeous, you're listening to episode 10 of the G'day Gorgeous podcast that empowers women for life. And today's topic, one of the topics that I really enjoy speaking about and inspiring people all over the world about, is the subject of money. And today we're going to be talking about how to stop having a poverty mentality and think and grow rich, like the book Napoleon Hill wrote many years ago that is world famous. So this empowering podcast has been created by me, Amanda Jane Clarkson. I am a best-selling author of my newly released book for women, From Frustrated to Fabulous, an inspirational guide for women who dare to live their dreams. I'm also an international inspirational speaker, entrepreneur, wealth and lifestyle coach for women all around the globe. And if you're a woman like me who craves more from life, you want to be more certain about things, you want more clarity, you want to gain more confidence and create your dream life by design, not default nor desperation, then this is the podcast that will help you go from feeling frustrated in any of the 7 areas of life to feeling and becoming successful and prosperous in all 7 areas. Now, the 7 areas that we talk about on the G'day Gorgeous podcast that does inspire and empower women for life is love, your health, your relationships, money, vocation, which is your job, career, or your business, happiness, and personal growth. And I can promise you that this podcast is going to be raw, real and very relatable, as it's based on real life experiences, lessons and results from myself and others. And I'm going to be delving into the good, the bad and the downright ugly, and even the downright heartbreaking as the time goes on. So gorgeous, be sure to have your companion journal. I always have my companion journal, and this is something that I created, or have your own, My Life by Design, because there is a great power in writing down your goals and your dreams and the life that you would love to live. And of course, I always say, make sure you've got a nice cuppa and be ready to take down some fabulous golden life success lessons, because today we are going to jump right into it. And all I'm asking you is to be open-minded and come with me on this grand adventure of possibility by putting yourself in my shoes. And as you listen to the stories and the lessons that I share with you, that I have lived and others have lived before me, then put yourself in our shoes, and you'll see yourself throughout so many of the things that I share with you, so many of the lessons that we need to learn along this journey we call life. And that's why I always say open heart and an open mind, because you never know what one golden gem that I'll share with you that could literally change the course of your life, so that you too can live the dreams that I've no doubt you've had since you're a very young child. And if you've been following the G'day Gorgeous podcast now that empowers women for life, you may recall the last episode number 9, I spoke about why people stay in jobs, careers and businesses that they truly hate. Now, today's podcast, I want to shift gears a little bit and talk about money matters, because I think that this is a vitally important subject that not many people feel comfortable or confident speaking about. However, I believe to have a balanced and a holistic life in all 7 areas, this is a very important subject that I do enjoy speaking about. I've been on my own journey since I was a kid with my money journey, how I felt about it and how I've gone from absolutely nothing to having a life of freedom and a life that I love, and now I want to empower and inspire you to go and do the same. And so, as I said, we're going to be talking about how to stop having this poverty mentality and think and grow rich. Now, of course, I don't know your story, I don't know you personally. However, come with me on this journey and this adventure and place yourself in the story and ask yourself questions. So make sure you've got a moment, turn off your phone and be present, because this is for you, your benefit. And as I said, I would love you to get your journal out and go to a page, because right from the get-go of this particular podcast, I am going to have you writing down golden nuggets that changed my life, that helped me become prosperous. It helped me over time become financially free, where I wake up every morning and I'm not worried about money. I'm not anxious about paying the bills. I am fully in charge of my own financial destiny, and it really makes a massive difference to your self-esteem, your confidence, your clarity. And as a woman, you feel that you are in more control of the destiny and where you want to get to in life. So first thing I want to share with you is the 3 things that will help you break the disempowering and toxic cycle if you do have what I call a poverty mentality. And I'm not here to judge or point the finger, because that used to be me growing up as a child in the 70s. I was certainly growing up in a family where money wasn't a subject that was even spoken about, let alone a subject that we learnt much about. And so the first thing that I want you to take down in your journal and write down is this: money awareness. Now, this is the very first step to helping break that cycle. If you feel you're on that rat wheel of life and money is not a subject that you like talking about, you are not where you hoped you would be financially, no matter where you are in your life right now. Perhaps you thought you'd have more money in the bank, you would have more money left at the end of the month instead of month left at the end of the money. Oh my God, I've been there so many times. You thought it would be easier to make money, but you're struggling and you're always feeling uncomfortable within as I speak about money. And these are the things that I want you to take note of and write down in your journal, because becoming aware is that very first step. Because if you're not aware, how do you know? How do you begin that process of changing who you are to have more than you have? And I want you to write this formula down. My thoughts create my feelings. My thoughts create my feelings. My feelings create my words. My words create my actions. And my actions create my result. So if you want to write that down in shorthand, just write T-F-W-A-R. That little formula is the formula that can and will completely turn your life around once you understand the formula. And throughout these next coming podcasts, we are going to delve into that formula for every area of your life, because to create a life by design, not default nor desperation, we've got to have this formula, this beautiful formula, understood at a very deep level. But for now, we're talking about money today. My thoughts create my feelings create my words create my actions, and my actions therefore give me a result. And so ask yourself this question, because this was my problem when I first became aware of money and the lack of money that I had in the bank account, my feelings and my emotions around money. I really started to see that for things to change, first I needed to change. I needed to understand different things. So your awareness around money, your thoughts and your feelings and your words, they're the 3 things that I want to talk about now. Would you say your thoughts, your feelings and your words around money, the subject of money, are they empowering words, thoughts and feelings, or disempowering words, thoughts and feelings? Does money inspire you to want to go out and find out how to create more money coming into your life through serving other people? Or does the subject of money make you close down, shut off, turn away, walk away because of how you feel about money? Like, these are really important questions that I had never considered growing up. No one taught me this until I started going to seminars and engaging with mentors who helped change my toxic broken mindset around money. I certainly had a poverty mentality. Now, growing up in your home or in your current home now, so you can either think back to when you're a child or in your home right now, when the subject of money comes up, does it inspire or encourage arguments? Is the language around lack of money? In other words, there's never enough. The bills are constantly piling up. You don't know how you're going to get the next bunch of money or the next paycheck to be able to cope with paying the bills, or having enough left over to enjoy life a little bit, or enough left over to be able to put into a nest egg so you can take care of your own retirement instead of depending on friends or family or the government. Is there enough for school fees? So is it disempowering or empowering around that subject? Or are you scratching together the last bit of money that you can just to buy school clothes, school books, pay the school fees, and, always hoping and wishing that your children were going to a different school, a better school, so that you give them better education? So do you feel guilty around that, or not particularly? I mean, these are just questions to get you thinking. And this is what the journal's for, gorgeous. I want you to be writing down notes, because journaling is one of the things that I started, back in 1997, that literally was one of the main things that changed my life, because writing has a power about it. And I would go back through all of my journals. I've got dozens and dozens of journals, and still to this day, I write in my journal every single day. It's where I write down all my hopes, my dreams, my ideas, where I'm at now, where I want to be, so I know how I'm going to bridge the gap. And so, thinking about what I'm saying here, how is this relating to you in your life? So thinking back to when you're a child to who you are today, has the language, so the thoughts, the feelings and the words, changed much from when you were a kid to who you are today? Or have you brought those same thoughts, words and feelings from your childhood to your adulthood? Now think about what I just said. That's so empowering to even think about that. That is such a profound statement, because I know that used to be me. So everything that I heard when I was a child, and this is step number 2 that I want to talk about now, is the environment. Write that down. Step number 2 of how to break this poverty mentality cycle is think about my environment. Monkey see, monkey do. Now you can write that down in your journal. So I remember growing up as a child, as I said, in the 70s, money was never spoken about. I was just told you've just got to work harder. And if you don't have enough money to buy what you want to buy, Amanda, then you've got to go out and get more jobs. And, in our family, I was one of 5 kids, and my mother could never see past the idea of me growing up, getting a good education, finding a husband, getting married, settling down, having children, and being a homemaker. Now that idea or that concept could not be any further from my mind. In fact, it freaked me out to the point where I knew from a very young age that I wasn't going to have children, and that one of those reasons is that growing up, we used to have a lot of welfare children or underprivileged children come and live in our home. And that's one thing I really love about my mother, is her kind heart. And she always opened her heart and our home to underprivileged children, or welfare children as we knew them back then, that would come and live with us. And it was my role as a 14-year-old, or even I think I was 12 years of age, that I would take care of these children for a few months. And, give them all the love, the care, a family environment to help them on their way before they left. However, that's a whole nother subject. But, this was the plan my mum had for me, was to follow that cycle. And so when it came to money, there were a few arguments, and I remember my mum used to take care of the books for my dad's business, because he was a solid plasterer and he had his own business as a builder kind of thing, and she would take care of his books. But there was never good energy, I'd call it, around money. We didn't go without. I'm not suggesting that. I cannot complain about that as a child. We didn't go without. We went to Catholic private schools. There was always enough food on the table. We had, my mum and dad ran around after us children with our sporting events and things like that. However, money wasn't spoken about in a sense of, well, here's how you save it. Why don't you begin a savings plan? And if you'd love to go into business, here's a couple of ideas about that. Or here's how to grow your future or to take care of your future. There was no talk about that sort of stuff. And I did share a story in a previous podcast how my dad came home one day and wanted to buy a business for myself and my two sisters. And Mum basically yelling in his face going, none of my daughters is going to be working in a business or having a business. You know, they are going to get married and raise a family. And so my environment as a child was, you know, what I wouldn't call an abundant environment around the idea of money. It was an abundant environment around love and nurturing and things like that. However, when it came to money, it was nothing of the sort. And so what about you? What did you hear growing up? What were the thoughts that your parents had, their feelings about money, their words and their actions that you saw, you heard, you felt within you that perhaps you've now carried on into your adult life? Now, there's another interesting question, isn't it? Because sometimes we get these, we're a product of our environment, and then these habits, we call them habits of thought, habits of feelings, habits of actions, we carry that through to our adult life, never once thinking to question it, ask if it's our reality, if it makes sense to us. And we spend sometimes the rest of our lives living the ideals, the thoughts and the feelings of either our parents, our school teachers, our environment of people that we live around, people who influence us, our teachers, our government, what we see on the television, sometimes religious beliefs, you know, all these different ideas and concepts around money. But the question I ask you is, whose ideas are they? Whose concepts are they? And do they ring true for you? Do they really make sense to you? And at a lower level, or a deeper level, I should say, do you truly believe in what you saw, what you heard, and what you experienced? Another great question. I wish I'd asked that question when I was much younger instead of in my 30s when I couldn't work out where the money was going. I mean, have you ever woken up and said to yourself, I don't know where the money goes. The money comes in and the money goes out, but I don't seem to see it. I don't seem to have any left over at the end of the week, let alone anything left over at the end of the month. Now, the step 3 in breaking this poverty mentality and learning to think and grow rich is to ask better questions. And as I said just a moment ago, the questions, is it your truth or their truth? How do you feel about what you heard or you saw or you experienced as a child? Did it piss you off or did it excite you? I mean, you might have grown up in a family where money was abundant and you were taught to have a healthy relationship with money and that money wasn't evil. You know, I always remember my parents saying, well, money doesn't grow on trees, Amanda. What do you think I am, made of money? Yeah, I wish. You know, if you want something, go out, work harder and get more. I never heard save it up. You know, anything learning around compounding interest or compounding money, nothing like that. I didn't have really what I call a healthy relationship around money. Did you just go along with it? That's another thing I like to ask. Did you just go along with what others felt and acted and what their feelings were, their words were around money? And then you've gone along with that for so many years, then how do you break that cycle? This is the thing. It's not as easy as it is said, of course. And this is one of the things I always say to the women that I coach. Yes, I understand this is easier said than done. However, once you become aware, once you start to learn to control your own thoughts, your own feelings, your own words around any topic in life, you start to empower yourself and you start to take charge of your destiny instead of living by default or worse still, desperation. So thinking about your life so far around the topic and the subject of money, how do you feel about it? Have you thought about asking different questions? Have you questioned your past and other people's beliefs and made a decision that either that you'll go along with it for the rest of your life, or now is the time to break the cycle? This is the decision time, and this is my next 3 steps. The 3 steps that I took to start to break that poverty mentality that I had in and around money. So step number 1 from the first lot of exercises that we just wrote down in your journal. I hope you're writing things down here. Step number 1 is to make a decision. If you don't like what you've got, then just make a decision that you're going to change things, and that can happen in an instant. I think Tony Robbins says that, you can make a change within a moment. Your life can change in a moment. And yes, a full transformation does take time, but a decision can happen in a heartbeat. And I made a decision. This is what the step I took. I made a decision at some point when I was around 29, 30 years of age, that I was not going to be ruled by my past. Their truth around money, their ideals around money, their feelings and their actions around money were theirs. Now I'm talking about parents, teachers, environment, society, friends, religion, other people, everything in fact. That was their truth. But my gut instinct, and I had this gut instinct right from when I was a young kid, and I wrote about it in my book, From Frustrated to Fabulous. I think it's in the 1st or 2nd chapter in this book, that even as a child in the 70s, when I was absolutely clueless about money, I always said, I want to be a millionaire. Not that I knew what a millionaire was. I'd never met a millionaire. I just knew that in my gut somewhere, I knew that I wanted to be wealthy. Now, as a child, wealthy back then meant money. Today, wealthy means something completely different, of course, and that is just one area of my life. However, I knew at growing up that there was something different in the way they felt about money than the way I felt about money. And so I want you to ask yourself, when you think about money, when you talk about the subject of money, have you made a decision to listen to your inner guidance, listen to your own gut feeling, or make that decision to change the way you think about money, the way you feel about money, and therefore the way you talk about money, which will change your actions and, of course, your results? Or are you going to stick with the past and let your past rule your future? It's just the decision. And so from there, step number 2 that I took when I decided that I wasn't going to live with a poverty mentality was to be committed. And I want you to write that down. Commitment to yourself, okay? Or if you can't commit to yourself, do it for your children, do it for your family, do it for your community, for your church group, or a bigger cause than you. Commitment. I made a commitment to learning and gaining new knowledge because I didn't understand how to really make money, how to grow money, how to invest money. And so therefore I realized that I was going to change my financial situation. I needed to make a commitment to start learning new things. And that began with a book. One of the very first books that we ever read about growing wealth was Think and Grow Rich and Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. That book really opened up our mind to, wow, there is a way that the average person can go from a standing start to growing their wealth. However, it all starts in the mind. And so from there, I made this commitment to learn as much as I could. I committed to doing as much personal development every single day for the rest of my life. That was the commitment that I made to myself. And so thinking about what I'm saying, hearing what I'm saying, have you ever made a commitment to yourself and stuck with it around the subject of money? Have you learnt something other than what you learnt growing up and what you were taught at school, if anything? I mean, back in those days, we were taught nothing about money at school. And have you made this commitment to yourself that, wow, if I want to have something different in my life, I want to create wealth, grow my wealth, have an investment so that I don't have to worry in my golden years when I retire. You know, you want to have money coming in, making the money work for you instead of you working for money for the rest of your life. Have you made this commitment yet? The great news is it's never too late. And one of my favourite mentors, Jim Rohn, says, to have more, we must know more, grow more, and become more. Now that is worth writing down. To have more, we must know more, grow more, and become more. And it was when I read that statement right back in about 1999 from Jim Rohn, I've been studying personal empowerment and personal development since 1997, that I realised that my school education and my environment education wasn't going to cut it. If I still had this, urge in me, or this feeling that I wanted to be a millionaire like I did when I was a child, then I needed to learn something different. And so I started to study. I started to read books. I started to empower myself. I started to think differently than my parents. Now, this is not a judgment on my parents or other people or the religion that I grew up with back in those days, or my teachers, or anybody for that matter. This was about me, and this is about you, gorgeous. This is not to make anybody wrong or anybody right. It's just an idea that, as Jim Rohn says, for things to change, first you must change. And that's the biggest message that I got. And so that was number 2. Then the third step that I took that was wow to me, that really got me enthusiastic, excited and inspired to actually do something with my life, was I started a vision board and a savings plan. Now, these days I call it a wealth plan, and this is what I teach my students inside my coaching program, and how to save money. So it doesn't matter whether you're from a standing start, it doesn't matter your age, background, or education for that matter. From a standing start, I teach my people how to create a savings plan, or I like to call it a wealth plan, okay, because it's not about just having money, it's what money can do for you, get it working for you. And the best part is my vision board. And so a vision board, I wasn't taught anything about having a vision board as a child back in those days. But I learned from my mentors, from reading books, from having, paying mentors and educating myself, that the pictures that I wanted my life to look like kept me inspired. They used to excite me. Now, back in those days, I used to have a great big scrapbook, and I would cut out pictures from magazines, and I'd cut pictures out and images out, because remember, we didn't have the internet back then. It seems like so long ago, but we didn't have the internet, and so all we had was magazines. But anything that I loved, I would just cut pictures out, them, stick them in this scrapbook. Now these days, through my own coaching program, we have a digital vision board, but it doesn't matter. You can start right where you are. And so what would you love your life to look like? If you want to become wealthy and break that poverty mentality in and around money, it really does reflect and impact each of the 7 areas of life. And so this vision board that I talk about, it was full of pictures in all different areas of my life. And of course, as I grew up, then my values changed, my wants and my needs changed, and so the images changed as well. And so thinking about your life, have you ever had a vision board? I really hope so, because they are so empowering, so inspirational, and I would literally look at these images every day and I just feel really good about it. And what those images did for me was help me want to save my money. And this is what I want to talk about, is a wealth plan, a savings plan. See, to have more, you must become disciplined. You must be committed. And so I would save a little portion of my income, even a tiny bit. And I think I even wrote that about in my book, how I would put any money that I had, because I had so many jobs growing up. Literally, I was working around the street. I was cooking biscuits for the neighbours. I was spinning wool. I was babysitting. I was looking after the welfare children that Mum brought home into our house for 3 or 4 months at a time. We had a really tiny miniature farm. I would feed all the animals 2-3 times a day, and I'd just get any money that I could. This was all to earn extra pocket money. Growing up in Tasmania, we have beautiful fruits and beautiful vegetables, and so I'd go fruit picking every day. My dad and I had a really little gorgeous veggie patch at the back of the house. I'd grow veggies and then I'd sell them around the neighbourhood. Like, you name it, I did it. But every 10 cents, 20 cents, back then it wasn't much money, I would collect as much as I could, and I'd put it in my little black tin and start a little savings plan, which then when I grew older, I had a bank account and I'd start to put money into my bank account. And what kept me going was my vision board. The images on my vision board was something that I could look at and see myself in the future of living. And so I am really big on vision boards. I'm really big on being grateful for what you have now, but also grateful for what you want to attract into your life and create for your life. But I'm talking today about a vision board and money. And so by combining those two, it was much easier for me to start putting money away. So thinking about yourself now. Have you started a wealth plan? Have you started a saving plans? And if not, it's okay, because like I said a moment ago, it doesn't matter who you are, where you've been, your background, your age, your education, anything. There's no excuses here. You can start today. And I always say, one step at a time, one day at a time. And that's exactly how I began. I had a minimum wage. Okay, I wasn't always in business. I had 33 jobs right up until I started my own businesses, when I could clearly see I was unemployable, right? But the images that I had in my vision board, as small as they were back then before the internet came out, kept me going, enthusiastic. And so what about you? Is this something that you could see yourself doing? And I always say we all have dreams, and I know you have dreams. However, there are goals along the way. And, starting this savings plan and breaking this poverty mentality is such a powerful step in creating your life by design instead of living by default. And as I say, worse still, by desperation. These little action steps that you can take each and every day really is the starting point of a whole new journey, a whole new chapter of life that I believe you deserve, and I believe that most people crave for. And I've talked about it in previous podcasts, why most people hate their life, why most people stay stuck in a past or stuck in jobs, careers or businesses that they really hate, is because they don't have dreams. They don't have dreams that inspire them, that make them enthusiastic, or a savings plan or a wealth plan to live those goals and dreams. And so from these 6 steps that I've talked about today, this is the beginning of what could be anything and everything that you can imagine. And so I'm going to be talking more about money in up and coming podcasts because I think it is one of those subjects, as I said at the beginning of this podcast, a subject that people crave to know more about. People want to become financially independent. You don't want to depend on other people for your future. I get that. And so next week, I am going to be talking more on Money Matters, gorgeous. And I'll be going into another part of creating more wealth, creating abundance, and setting yourself up to be financially free. Setting yourself up to be free and fulfilled in every area of your life. So that's it for this week's podcast. And I believe it's been a powerful topic today, money. It is a very hot topic, and as I keep saying, I'm going to be delving more and more into it as time goes on throughout these podcasts. And here's the thing, remember girls, Unless we are growing, we are dying. And learning how to empower all 7 areas of your life is one of my Live Now Freedom formulas, life success principles that I teach inside my community that I'll talk about in a moment. Because your past does not have to determine or dictate your future. It is up to you, and you can change it if you truly have the desire to, and if you truly want to, just like I did. I mean, look at me. If I can do it, anybody can do it. I can honestly say that hand on heart, okay? Your financial destiny is an inner game. Remember that. Write that down in your journal. Money is an inner game, and you are so worthy of creating wealth and abundance in your life. And like I said, I have so much to share on this hot topic called money. So thank you so much for listening. And if you have loved this episode, if you found value in this episode and know of somebody else that you care about who would love to go from feeling frustrated to feeling fabulous and successful in all 7 areas, including love, health, relationships, money, your vocation, happiness, and personal growth, then please let them know to subscribe to this podcast that empowers women for life. You know it would mean the world to me, and I'd be so appreciative if you would help me create the butterfly effect by sharing this important and impactful message with others, as many others as we can. And as I keep saying, it's my life's work and my mission to impact, inspire, and empower women globally, and I would love your help doing that. And so if you've liked what you've heard today, if you found this valuable, these 6 tips that I shared with you that literally turned my life of poverty into a life of financial freedom in all areas of my life as well, I would so appreciate it if you just take 30 seconds to leave a 5-star review for this podcast and share it with your girlfriends. And to find out more how to get your copy of this book, From Frustrated to Fabulous, an inspirational guide for women who dare to live their dreams. You can get it in paperback or audio. To find out more about my coaching, personal coaching with myself called Select Coaching, please head over to my website, www.gdaygorgeous.com. You will see so much there, everything we have on offer, and inspirational story from everyday women who are now living their life by design, not default. And thanks again for joining me on the G'day Gorgeous podcast that inspires and empowers women for life. And until next episode, be bold, be courageous, and be fabulous, gorgeous. See you soon. Bye.